Charita Thomas was young, full of life. She had dreams. Then she disappeared. It was 1980. Northern Michigan was a peaceful place, but on that day darkness fell. Charita vanished. Charita was last seen near a police station. She was getting into a car. An older man was driving. No one knew who he was. No one saw her alive again. Her family was devastated. They searched tirelessly. They prayed for her safe return, but their hopes dwindled with each passing day. The police investigated. They had a suspect in mind, Jimmy Nelson. Jimmy Nelson was a shady character. He had a history of violence against women. He had been seen in the area. He even knew Charita, but there was a problem. The police had no proof. They questioned him. Of course, he denied everything. He said he hadn't seen Charita. He had an alibi, he claimed, but something about his story didn't add up. Years turned into decades. The case went cold. Charita's family clung to hope, but they were starting to lose faith. Justice seemed impossible. In 2001, a glimmer of hope emerged. The case had been cold for years, with no new leads or evidence. It seemed like Charita's story would remain untold, her voice forever silenced by the passage of time. A new detective, fresh to the department but seasoned in determination, decided to reopen the case. He was driven by a sense of justice and a desire to bring closure to Charita's family. He wanted to give Charita a voice, to speak for her when she could no longer speak for herself. He pored over old photographs, scrutinizing every detail, hoping to find something that had been missed. He wanted to find answers. He had a hunch that something crucial had been overlooked. His intuition told him that the key to solving the mystery lay in the Huron National Forest. The Huron National Forest was vast and desolate, a sprawling expanse of trees and undergrowth. It was easy to see how secrets could remain hidden here, buried beneath layers of foliage and time. It was a place where secrets could stay hidden, where the whispers of the past were muffled by the rustling leaves. But it was also a place where the truth might be found, if one knew where to look. But it was also a place where the truth might be found. The detective believed that somewhere in this vast wilderness, the answers he sought were waiting to be uncovered. The detective had a plan. He meticulously mapped out the areas he wanted to search, marking potential sites of interest. He knew he couldn't do it alone. He would bring in a cadaver dog, a highly trained animal capable of detecting human remains. This dog would be his partner in the search for the truth. The dog's name was Eagle. With his sharp senses and unwavering focus, Eagle was known for his keen sense of smell and his ability to find what others could not. He was known for his keen sense of smell. Eagle could detect the faintest scent of human remains, even those that had been hidden for decades. His reputation was built on his remarkable abilities. He could detect the faintest scent of human remains, even after decades. The detective placed his trust in Eagle, knowing that the dog's skills could make all the difference in this cold case. Eagle and his handler, Sandra Anderson, arrived at the forest. The search was on. With each step, they moved closer to uncovering the truth, determined to bring justice to Charita and her family. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig sent shivers down the spines of the search team. Sandra held Eagle's leash, whispering encouragement. The dog's ears twitched, his nose to the ground, sniffing intently. Hours passed. The sun beat down on the search party. Still they pressed on, their hope clinging to Eagle's every move. Then a breakthrough. Eagle stiffened. He barked, a sharp, insistent sound that cut through the silence of the forest. He had found something. Sandra Anderson strained to see what had caught Eagle's attention. The dog was focused on a patch of disturbed earth. Sandra brushed aside the leaves and gasped. Bones, small fragments, bleached white by the sun and time. The police were cautiously optimistic. Could this be it? Could they finally bring Charita home? The fragments were carefully collected. They were sent to a lab for analysis. The wait for the results was agonizing. Section 6 shattered hope. Weeks turned into months. Finally, the lab results arrived. The news was not good. The bones were human. But they didn't belong to Charita Thomas. In fact, they belonged to 3 different individuals. The mystery had deepened. Who were these people? How did their remains end up in Huron National Forest? Were they connected to Charita's disappearance? The police were baffled. They decided to bring Eagle and Sandra back to the forest. Maybe they had missed something. Section 7. Unveiling the Deception. In the heart of the dense, fog-laden forest, a mystery was about to unravel. The air was thick with tension, and the shadows seemed to whisper secrets long buried. The second search was just as intense as the first. Officers combed through the underbrush, their flashlights piercing the gloom. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig heightened their alertness. Eagle, ever vigilant, scoured the forest floor. His keen sense of smell guided him through the maze of trees and fallen branches. The dog's handler followed closely, trusting Eagle's instincts implicitly. And once again, he made a discovery. More bones. The handler's heart raced as he knelt beside Eagle, examining the grim find. The bones were scattered, yet there was a pattern, a story waiting to be told. This time they were larger, more intact. The skeletal remains seemed almost deliberately placed, as if someone wanted them to be found. The team couldn't shake off the feeling that they were being led on a trail of breadcrumbs. This time there was a sense of dread. Something didn't feel right. The forest, usually a place of natural beauty, now felt like a stage set for a sinister play. The search team exchanged uneasy glances, their unease growing with each passing moment. The placement of the bones, the way they were scattered, it all seemed too deliberate. It was as if someone had orchestrated this macabre scene, knowing exactly how it would be discovered. The team couldn't ignore the nagging suspicion that they were being manipulated. The police launched an investigation. They needed to understand who was behind this and why. The forest had become a crime scene, and every detail, no matter how small, was crucial. They looked into Sandra Anderson's past. Her name had come up before, and now it was time to dig deeper. The detectives pored over old files, searching for any clue that could shed light on the current mystery. What they found was shocking. Sandra had a history that was both troubling and revealing. The more they uncovered, the more it became clear that this was no ordinary case. Sandra had a history of planting evidence. She had manipulated scenes, creating false narratives that misled investigations. Her actions had caused untold damage, and now it seemed she was at it again. She had done it in other cases. Each time she had managed to stay one step ahead, her deceptions going unnoticed until it was too late. The detectives knew they had to act quickly to prevent further damage. She had a need for attention. Sandra thrived on the drama and the spotlight. Her need to be seen as a hero had driven her to commit acts that were both unethical and illegal, a need to be the hero. She basked in the praise and admiration, her ego fed by the accolades, but beneath the surface her actions were driven by a darker motive, and she had used Eagle to do it. The truth was out. Eagle was innocent. The loyal dog had simply been following his training, unaware that he was being used as a pawn in Sandra's twisted game. He was just following his nose, doing what he was trained to do. The realization brought a mix of relief and anger to the team. They had been deceived, but now they knew the truth. Sandra, however, was a fraud. Her carefully constructed facade had crumbled, and she was finally facing the consequences of her actions. The forest, once a place of mystery, now held the answers they had been seeking. Section 8. Justice, but no closure. The fallout was immediate. Sandra Anderson was arrested. The community was in shock as the news spread like wildfire. Sandra, once a respected figure, was now the face of betrayal. She was charged with obstruction of justice. The courtroom was packed with reporters and onlookers, all eager to see the woman who had deceived so many. The evidence against her was overwhelming. She was sentenced to prison. Her once bright future was now confined to the cold, grey walls of a penitentiary. The sentence was a relief to some, but for others it was just the beginning of a long road to recovery. Her betrayal sent shockwaves through the law enforcement community. Colleagues who had trusted her felt a deep sense of betrayal. Meetings were held to assess the damage and to ensure such a breach of trust would never happen again. Cases that Sandra had worked on were reopened. Convictions were overturned. The ripple effect of her actions was felt far and wide. Innocent people were freed, but the process was painstaking and slow. The damage she had done was immeasurable. But what about Charita? Her case remained unsolved. The family clung to hope, but each passing day without answers was a dagger to their hearts. The bones found in Huron National Forest were not hers. The discovery had initially sparked hope, but it was quickly dashed. The search for Charita continued, with every lead being pursued relentlessly. Jimmy Nelson, the initial suspect, was never charged. Despite being under intense scrutiny, the evidence against him was insufficient. The community was divided, with some believing in his innocence and others convinced of his guilt. The evidence against him was still circumstantial. Investigators worked tirelessly, but without concrete proof, the case remained at a standstill. The frustration was palpable, both within the police force and the community. Charita's family was left with more questions than answers. They held vigils, hoping to keep her memory alive and to pressure the authorities to keep searching. The pain of not knowing was unbearable. They had been given hope, only to have it cruelly ripped away. The community rallied around them, offering support and solidarity. But the void left by Charita's absence was one that could never be filled. The quest for justice continued, but closure remained elusive. Section 9. Eagle's legacy. Eagle, the dog who had been used as a pawn in Sandra's web of lies, lived out his days with a new handler. He continued to work on legitimate cases, bringing closure to families who had lost loved ones. He died in 2003, his reputation intact. Charita Thomas's case remains open. Her fate remains a mystery, but her story serves as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope flickers, and that even in the face of deception, the truth has a way of coming to light.